Hi everyone, welcome, namaste to June 2026. June is a 6 number, and in 2026, June is a 7 vibration. So we're dealing with June in June with a 6 and a 7 vibration. So last month we also had 6, so we've got a repeat of the 6, and now we have a 7. We're still dealing with the global number of 10. And we're entering into the final few months, final few laps, so to speak, of this 10 energy. So I'll cover that a little bit too. But June, there is a little bit going on because we have the solstice, 21st, 22nd. So that is the longest day of the year. So we're rising into this peak of the sun energy. So over the next, few weeks, if you can, just really take some time to tune into the energy and the consciousness and the healing vibrancy of the sun's energy. And you can just really allow or invoke, invite, and request the sun's energy to just really fill your whole body, all your cells, your energy field, just clearing out any density, any energies that are low frequency, just really bringing new vitality and rejuvenation into your body, into your cells. It's a very powerful way to just really rejuvenate and revitalize. So if you're in the northern hemisphere and you want to invoke the sun's energy, very powerful. And that energies have been so steadily increasing frequency. So I feel that's just also a beautiful way to really consciously connect and activate some of our, kind of our light codes consciously through the sun's energy as well. So the 10 energy, as we get into the final laps too, really starts to kind of culminate any themes that the 10 will be showing up for us. So I find this is going to be interesting on the world stage, potentially because this month, as we'll see in a second around the 7 energy, this month is going to be a great month for us to prepare for the next few months. The next couple months, there's going to be a theme on power and all the things that come with that, as we can see playing out onto the world stage. So it's gonna be interesting how that really kicks in to a whole other level through the summer. And September peaks our themes generally in numerology. September is, that's where everybody's themes, personal and then the global, will be just accentuated. That doesn't mean it's a negative thing. It means just whatever our themes are this year, we have an opportunity in September to just really either bring some things down into completion, closure, culmination of some sort, integration period. So it can just depend on, where we're at. So I would say this month, back to June. So this month is really going to be an opportunity for us to really go within and get really steady and strong, rooted and grounded in who we are. 7 is asking us that question, who am I? And I feel like we're going to be continuously doing this as a collective in humanity, and then us individually, and keeping in mind always about the microcosm, macrocosm effect. It really does matter what we do in the internal, and our most powerful thing that we can do is our own internal transformation, because that does affect the collective. And it doesn't take all of the collective to shift consciousness for evolution to happen, for jumping of timelines to happen, for peace to happen. It requires a percentage. So that's why it matters what we do within. And so this month, the 7 is giving us this beautiful opportunity to really go inward. We might have just more of a calling, or just kind of more of just a desire to actually want to just spend more quiet time, introspective time. 7 is generally a self-study cycle. It's also a cycle, the number vibration of transformation. And I think what's interesting about it combined with the 6, so 6 can represent a lot of themes. So we talked about that last month. So 6 themes can represent home, family, community, relationships, partnerships, marriage, responsibility. Where am I responsible? Where am I not responsible? Coming out of codependency, out of martyr archetype, things like that, justice. And so institutions. So 6 also represents self-esteem and our immune system. So we're still going to be dealing with that this month. And so what I think is going to be potentially interesting for us with the 7 is the 7 might be asking, who am I in relation to what's going on in the world? Who am I now in relation to my relationships, or the community I'm serving or a part of, and what do I want to be a part of? But first coming and getting into our own truth within, activating our own divine blueprint. And I love the 6 with this, because the 6 is asking us to go into the sacred, and it's inviting us to devote ourselves to our sacred journey, our own personal, unique, individual soul journey. And so when we can start to tune into that, what really resonates with me? What is my truth? Who am I? And 6 also is going to be asking us this month, 6 and 7 with the combo, is really going to be asking, where am I operating from or holding on to rigid beliefs, outdated versions of myself that I really am no longer able to hold, or they just don't resonate, or they're not working anymore. Something may need to change in that relation. This isn't a cycle of change, but it's asking us to really review, kind of where am I being rigid, and where can I start to be a little bit more flexible and fluid in my mind, so that I can get rid of all of the encrusting, get rid of all of the walls, get rid of all of the things, conditioning, the programming, where I can go back within self and say, what is my truth and what really resonates with me, coming from that heart space, so that I can show up in a connected, grounded, clear way from my own platform of my own soul's journey. So this is a great month to kind of inquire about that. And all we have to really do is just kind of literally sit down, take some time to just be in stillness or be in some quiet. And that could be just really, again, being in nature. It could be just sitting somewhere that just feels really calm, and just really even just in meditation, even just asking, who am I? What is my truth? And when we ask that, just being open to receiving insights or downloads or ahas that could come through from that, not forcing, just relaxed with it, letting it go, just kind of starting to just really come in. I mean, one of the most powerful ways is just really continuously cultivate our relationship with our own inner resonance. Is this really resonating with me right now? Is this not resonating with me right now? Without having to necessarily know why. And the 7 can sometimes, we do need to be careful with the 7 in the shadow aspect, that it's the intellectual mind, analytical mind. So the 7 wants to know, and it wants to understand. So that's great. Understanding is a powerful way to really platform and open up to powerful qualities like compassion. When we understand, especially from the soul perspective, that is an invitation for this month to step back and ask, if I can see this and understand this from a soul perspective, or from, the opportunity that potentially could be coming out of these situations, that's it. That's a great way to utilize that. But sometimes the 7 can get too analytical, and it can take us out of our heart and too much into the head. So that's where, asking the question and then letting it go and letting it come to us. And so again, introspective, mindful techniques like journaling could be good, or just, again, sitting silently, spending time in nature, spending time where, you're connected to another energy source that is beyond you, beyond us. So that could be, again, like nature. It could be watching the sunrise or sunset, things like that. So whatever resonates with you with that. And then the 6 is asking us to look at balancing extremes. So with the 7, how that potentially could look or look like, I can get that out, look like is potentially, it could be, where do I have too much energy going out into the outside of me? So that could be too much emphasis and energy on what's happening in the world, too much energy and emphasis on what's negative, on what's not working, on what's terrible, on fear, things like that. And can I balance myself to bring myself back again into my own center, into my heart, coming into just my own energy field? Sometimes, we are getting pulled in so many directions energetically. Sometimes we don't even know, we don't even recognize that it's happening, and how much it influences us. So 7 is thought forms as well. So really watching where our thoughts are going, but watching our energy field. 7 is the aura too. So really starting to come back and be in our own energy field. And do we know what that feels like? Do we know what it feels like to be in our own energy field? I'm not just talking in our own heart space. I mean our own energy field, because our energies, like, we're so effusive. And if, whatever we really are giving energy to, exposed to, around, that affects our energy field. So coming back sometimes and just taking some quiet time, just to kind of sit and settle, whatever that looks like for you, and coming back into the sense of my own energy field. and knowing what that feels like so that I can start to discern a little bit more when I'm being affected by things that aren't mine. Especially, you know, as things are really intensifying out onto that world stage. This is an intense year for that because it's such a catalytic year of change and of you know, kind of old things crumbling and releasing so that new things can pave the way. And 7 can also represent, well, it represents spiritual transformation. And transformation, often we go through what is called a dark night of the soul, meaning there's different stages to that. So I have a podcast that there will be a link in the newsletter for if you want to check that podcast out. Because it goes through what all the stages are of the dark night of the soul. Because again, sometimes understanding this is a stage and I'm going through, this is normal, a normal part of transformation. And because there's a couple stages in there, especially when we're in the void stage where the old doesn't fit anymore, the world is not the same anymore, or I'm going through something that's just really, I'm exhausted from, I'm frustrated with, I'm dealing with loss, I'm dealing with, I don't know who I am anymore, again, 7. And then the old me doesn't feel right anymore, but I don't know who the new me is yet. So you know, a lot of times that can be one of the most challenging points in the dark night of the soul. So if you want some guidance or support in that, or you just want to understand the stages, because sometimes that can be helpful to know this is a stage, it's going to pass, and there's purpose and there's a point to it. When we know that there's a purpose and a point to things, that can also help us endure and stay grounded or keep our head afloat, you know, a little bit just through these transformational stages, because there's so much ego death in transformation. And that ego death can be literally like the ego kicking up, or it can be, I don't know who I am anymore. And that can feel very scary to the personality. And so again, having some type of understanding when we are going through a dark night of the soul and understanding what those stages are can really bring some comfort and some clarity and some support. So go ahead and check that out if that resonates with you. And a dark night of the soul, by the way, can be, you know, it can be like years. It can be 6 months. You can wake up in the middle of the night and something got activated, and you could go through a couple hours of a dark night of the soul in the night. So it can be literally like, you know, you could go through a dark night of the soul the weekend, and on the other side of it, you're a completely different person. So you can feel just different. You can feel lighter. You can feel like, oh, wow, I don't even kind of fully know what happened. I just know that I went through a lot of stuff. I went through a lot of emotions, or something happened, and that just activated some things for me. And then, you know, I went through the storm. I went through the transformation. And on the other side of it, I am a different person. And that's the key to also remember, whatever we're going through, collective or like world stage or inner, there is purpose to it. There is a point to it. And there is, in that transformation, everything that is happening for us. And I know sometimes it's really difficult to connect to that and to remember that. So if we can remember that this is happening for me, which means there's opportunity for me in this for learning, growing, or healing. And often we don't know until we're on the other side of it, and sometimes even a ways on the other side of it, before we can look back and really start to see the divine order, really start to see the transformation and why it had to be the way that it was, how it played out. So sometimes, again, just kind of keeping that in mind and reminding this is happening for me. And so what can I do in this moment to support myself to come back into my own heart, my own center, my own energy field? So that will be the invitation. And again, we might see a lot of changes happening in relationships, in our structures, in our institutions. And again, from an egoic perspective, even if you're really conscious and have been for a while, and you know what's playing out and why it's playing out and has to play out the way it does, it's still sometimes for everyone, it rattles the foundation of what we often have, you know, kind of really learned how to have some semblance of security with, or even identity with in some cases. And that's where, even though as things are changing or crumbling or not making sense, things are so fractured and just, you know, fear-based, things like that, that's where we want to come back into really knowing who we are, and then step by step being able to honor, step by step, does this resonate with me? And then keeping in mind, as we're activating our soul blueprint, and honoring what resonates with us. We might not know 5 steps ahead. We might not know 1 step ahead. What we want to do is, when we're really tuned into our soul's connection, our soul's guidance through that resonance, through that knowing, when it is our own guidance, then we can just literally every step along the way make decisions based on that without having to know a couple steps ahead or any steps ahead, because we're so aligned. Our soul can see the greater picture. The soul's always going to be guiding us to our highest good and is in communication with other souls in their highest good. So that's hard for the mind, though, especially if you're a planner. So I get that, because that's definitely, you know, learning how to really just let go and be able to just really find, you know, kind of the trust in the moment. This is what's resonating. I don't have to judge it. I don't have to understand what's next. I don't have to know what's next. I'm just going to honor and then act from that place. And feel like the more we do that, and the more we start to really kind of see the bigger picture. So if you've been in transformation, if you've been working on transformation for a while, it does get easier, because you do see, like, looking back, you can see all of the, you know, how that made sense. And in the moment, it didn't make sense. So, so I love birds. If you know me, you know I love birds. I love animals. And I'll just give this, because if you're going through a transformation or a dark night of the soul, find the simple. So just before I was doing this video, I was looking out my kitchen window, and I feed birds. I love them. And there's little sparrows, which I think are so often overlooked little birds, because they're just little, they're not super colorful, but they are so sweet. And there was 2, well, tons of sparrows around my patio, but there was 2, and they were just bopping around. Like, if you ever watch them, they kind of like bop around, like they're so cute. And then one picked up like a seed and fed the other one. And then it kept doing that. It kept picking up the seed and bopped around and bopped it into his mate's or friend's mouth. And it was just so endearing and so sweet. And what it reminded me, and that's why I'm sharing, because it happened just before today with the video. So I'm like, I just feel really prompted to share this if this resonates. But what it reminded me, the message, like, to share, is that it's, you know, there's so much good out there. There's so much love. There's so much caring and warmth and purpose to life, and just gentleness. But it's the simple, and often the simple, like watching the birds and watching how they interact, can be the most powerful, sacred experience or moment. And it's just a second, but, you know, it just totally warmed my heart, and it just totally brought joy into my whole being, just watching that quick thing. You know, and I feel like we need more of that. We need, like, there's so much busy and loudness in going on in the world. Coming back to those simple moments, coming back to those simple things, those simple details, and just slowing down and really being able to kind of see life from that lens can be a real game changer for us. And we do have this month, Mercury going retrograde. I think it's the 29th of June, so it's the end of the month. But we will start to feel that a couple weeks before. We'll start to feel the pre-shadow, the slowing down, and the themes potentially starting to present what that Mercury retrograde will be for us. So I like that with the 7, because it's going to support us to keep coming within. And we'll start to have kind of more of a calling to do that. And again, you know, Mercury going into the underworld helps us to gather information that is in our unconscious that we otherwise don't always have access to, and then it can bring it up into our conscious awareness. So I think there's going to be a lot of support in that. And we will have 7 again in July, because 7 represents July. So I feel like this month and next month really being invited for us to come into, again, our own truth. And then from that point, being able to move forward, especially we start to get into the power months. How do we want to show it? We want to be strong and solid in our own truth, and coming from a place of empowerment, which means we're coming from, again, our own resonance. We're coming from a place of honoring our own inner authority, but we have to learn how to really hear that, and we have to learn how to really honor that. So I guess the invitation for us this month is to really find and seek the sacred within, and devote ourselves to our own spiritual journey, our own spiritual process, our own spiritual path that is unique to us, and allowing ourselves, no matter what is going on around us, to be able to come back in and connect to that. And maybe this month is going to be about exploring that. who am I now? You know, looking back, like things are changing so fast, things are happening so fast. And so it could be just, you know, where was I a couple months ago, or where was I a year ago? And where am I at now? Do I feel like I'm the same person? You know, is this, you know, how do I want to move forward? How do I want to show up? Continuously asking ourselves, I think that, but really allowing our soul self to shine through. So allowing ourselves to practice continuously to get out of our way, out of our own way, so that our soul can come through. So just one more final invitation that we can do as well this month is if we do find that we're struggling with something, or we just simply want change somewhere in our life, or we want a little bit more ease, or we want a little bit more something, love or peace somewhere, call forth your soul. Really just call forth and connect to the light of our soul. And again, don't worry if you don't feel that or it doesn't totally make sense. It could be just taking a minute and just tuning into the light of your soul. Hold that, and then think about the area in your life that you want to have some type of change, or you want some type of understanding, or you want some support or help with. And just allow yourself, if you can, to hold those two simultaneously, even just for a couple seconds, couple minutes, and let the soul's light flow into that situation, flow into that part of you or part of the outer that you'd like to see help with. So that's a great exercise this month. If you're looking for just something simple and quick to do, we can do that anytime. You could end your day with that even, or start your day with that, and just kind of start to see what starts to unfold very gently and very lovingly. All right, so happy solstice, and have a beautiful month, and wishing you all just so much love, grace, ease, and gentleness, and sacredness. Much love. Namaste.